So I want to make a response reaction video to ATP's post-election feelings on their latest episode, Screen on Rant. They're a great tech podcast. Love listening to them. Love all of their personalities. So would highly recommend it. As a conservative Christian, though, this is where the good stuff comes in. I disagree with them on a lot of their kind of ideologies, the way they think about stuff here and there, and just kind of a lot of beliefs they hold, political, personal, whatever, in regards to abortion, all that stuff too, whatever. I have my beliefs based on that. But other than that, just wanted to state that from the start. So let's get started, and I'll just react and respond here and there.
Therapy for the three of us. If you're not interested, that's fine. If you disagree with the way we feel about this election, that's fine, I guess. You don't need to tell us about it. That's fine. You can skip this chapter. This is why chapters exist. Just move right along. But I think the three of us need this for the three of us, and hopefully maybe it'll be a little cathartic to at least one of you. Last night, I was watching the coverage, and as early as like 8:30 Eastern, I was like, this doesn't feel good. And by not...
What's funny is I actually thought I was feeling the same. I wasn't thinking it was feeling good either. I'm like, wait a minute. Like, usually it tilts one way and then shifts the other. So he might have been feeling that from his side. So, yeah, I was kind of feeling that way too. I'm like, wait, like, why is Ohio behind? Like, so yeah, that's kind of funny. We both have that same mindset.
9:30 Eastern, which is when the first real big batch of polling started coming in properly, Aaron and I looked at each other and we were like, I don't think I want to stay up for this. Like, I was planning to stay up for me because we typically go up on a school night at like 10-ish.
I stayed up all the night till 3 a.m. I actually watched the victory speech.
Ride this baby out and watch it come in. And I was mostly excited for it, to be honest with you. And 9:30, the two of us looked at each other and we were like, I don't like how this feels. I'm just going to go to bed. And we went to bed. I slept like trash. And at about 5, I gave up, woke up, looked at the news and saw, oh no. And by the time I actually hauled myself out of bed at like 6:30-ish, what was a theoretical ending became a official in the terms of, like, the AP called it, CNN called it, they called it for Trump. And I've been really sad. I've been really sad all day. I've been really dejected all day. I've been really worried all day. Not as much about me particularly.
Okay.
But I'm worried a fair bit for the women in my life.
What do you mean?
You know, I'm not too terribly concerned for Aaron because, you know...
See, at this point, I'm curious what he's talking about. Like, he doesn't want to come out and say it, and I think I know what he's talking about, but because there was a similar kind of left-wing Democrat woman who mentioned something similar, and I will mention the thing when he finishes.
We're officially done having babies. We were surgically done with having babies. So short of something.
So he's talking about abortion.
All of the baby-related stuff, I'm not too worried about. But there's a lot of women's healthcare that's not strictly about baby making.
Daughter having babies?
Men seem to believe. And that concerns me. And I'm very concerned for Michaela. You know, she'll be 10 when this, she'll be 10 for...
So why does it matter if she's 10 when Trump's still in office? I'm confused. Like, and I think I know where he's going with it. I'll say it. Most people don't want to say it. Is he talking about if his child was a victim of sexual assault? And yeah, okay. So is he going to want to bring up that story of the Ohio young woman who had to go to Indiana for her abortion? Sorry, I was trying to say that weird. So yeah, I think he was talking about, like, if my daughter was, assaulted. And that's kind of weird for someone to live in that fear, that mindset. That is really unhealthy because he almost seems to think that Trump encourages this. Like, he's for, he's for that type of, he supports that type of lifestyle, whatever, that kind of craving and all that stuff. But in regards, he should actually be afraid because of the millions of illegal immigrants that Biden and Harris just let in while they were in office for the past 4 years. So as a conservative Christian, I'm coming from the other side and throwing this at him now. And he has a right to be fearful in that regard, because you have plenty of stories of, there was that young, I think 14-year-old girl who was brutally attacked and, assaulted and killed by two illegal immigrants. I'm not sure the exact date they entered into the states, whatever. I'm not sure if you could even figure that out, if the common individual could figure that out. But then you have obviously Laken Riley in Georgia was assaulted and killed by a illegal immigrant. So illegal alien, however you want to state it, which Biden and Harris let in. So, yep, that's my response for that section.
Years from now, we'll see if that's the end of this term of presidency. I'm worried for her, but the people really...
What I want to state real fast is, as a father, Casey, I will address you if you listen to this. If not, it's whatever. Everyone else. It's your job when your daughter's growing up to protect her. I know you can't always be there for her, but you should be on guard and cautious about generally everything, not living in fear. But as a father, you should be wanting to protect your family and your daughter. So obviously that involves where she goes, who she's with, all that stuff, who she hangs around, all that type of stuff. Obviously with technology, the innovation we have today, whatever, make sure they have the appropriate tools and, tools and stuff they need to, defend themselves, maybe, teach them self-defense. That's always a great thing. So as a father, like I said, you should be doing everything you can to make sure your daughter can defend herself, but also that she's in a good position always and safe, whatever, to be safe in a way. So I know, some things like those horrible acts just come out of nowhere and just seem to grab people and mess up in a family's entire life by taking one of their own. That does happen, but like I was stating, it doesn't matter how that originally happened. So like I stated, the illegal aliens and immigrants, that's why it's important to close the border. So
worried for are the people that don't look like me, and I'm very scared for them.
He said who don't look like him, which I'm curious, what does that mean? He's scared for them.
For what to do.
Is he talking about people of a different color or a different status, like they're not U.S. citizens? Like, I'm very confused by his response. He doesn't want to say it almost like what happened with George Floyd, like the environment that happens under Trump, maybe? Is that what he's talking about? Like the atmosphere, like people feel it's okay to, commit these sorts of acts. So I could go into a whole thing about George Floyd and him being on drugs and everything like that at the time, but
interrogating within myself and talking with friends about how did we get here, and we can talk about that if it's true.
We got here because of the last 4 years. So that is the truth of that.
Answers. But I'm really sad. I'm really sad that we as a country have decided that this is what we want. And even despite our full-throated endorsement last episode, which I stand behind, I think all three of us could make passionate arguments, and let me just speak for myself. I can make a passionate argument that Kamala was not a stellar choice, but it was the choice we had, and so that's the choice I went with.
Right there, that statement, it was the choice we had, so that's the choice I went with. Did you elect Kamala? Was she part of some sort of, what's the word, primary? I don't think she won anything like that, did she? Wait. Wasn't it considered a coup when she was actually implanted as in Joe Biden's place, whatever, when he was forcefully told to resign from his re-election bid? So yeah, if he's stating that was his only choice as a Democrat, I guess maybe, but that wasn't his only choice. I have plenty of friends who, are on the left, on the right, on the middle, and a few of them did not vote. So yeah, if technically, if you, in your mindset, if you pick the lesser of two evils and you believe Kamala was the lesser of two evil, then okay. But if you're saying she was the only choice because she was a Democrat, then that's where I'm going to disagree with you, because Trump is kind of an old school Democrat. Like, he's not that conservative. Like, I want someone more conservative as the president. I'm not gonna lie. As a conservative Christian, I'm not necessarily a fan of dictatorships and all that stuff, but I believe in a righteous king ruling and everything, and that day will soon come with Jesus, Yeshua coming back. But other than that, I mean, Trump's not that conservative. Like, he's not my first pick. I would pick DeSantis over him any day. So yeah. And also in the way you're saying as well, Trump was kind of my only pick as well. It's like, it's unfortunately a two-party state, whatever. And the question is, what beliefs do I value most? I could have, if John F. Kennedy Jr., if he would have ran, I could have possibly voted for him. I actually thought about it, but because of the whole thing with Kamala and all that stuff, and Kamala, and they kind of pushed her in there, and they didn't really have a chance to get anyone else in there to get those delegates. Really didn't give a lot of people a choice. I think there was a good amount of Republicans and independents who actually thought about voting for JFK if he won the Democrat ticket. So,
and I feel like it's hard for me to wrap my head around, and it's hard for me to figure out, how do I tell my kids that a man who is convicted of how many felonies, a man who at least suggested, if not caused, an insurrection on the capital of the United States of America, that seems to be saying very, very full-throatedly that he would like to prosecute or otherwise imprison or get rid of the people who he considers his enemies, be they domestic or foreign. How can I look at a man who's a pathological liar, a man who's cognitively falling apart? How can I look to my kids and say, there are consequences for your actions, when, as far as I can tell, he's never had a consequence for his action other than failing upwards? And
so I'll stop there again. Being convicted of felonies, I mean, there's plenty of instances where judges and courts and everything are a little, biased in the ruling. So the question is, he was convicted, and he technically is a felon, but does that make him one though? And the question is, like, by what regard and everything is he a felon and everything? So I don't have much response into that. More so that just because someone's convicted of something doesn't mean they are guilty of it. It's just that they are convicted of something. So
and how do I accept that half of the country is enthusiastic about this? And again, I have some theories, but it's just hard to wrap my head around. And we got some feedback from last week's episode. Most of it was very positive, and I very much appreciate it. Some of which was not so positive, but thankfully it was mostly presented with respect, which I appreciate.
I'd like to say mine was.
But a couple of the people who wrote us were like, I couldn't believe that anyone could vote for Joe Biden. I couldn't believe that anyone would vote for him. Like, I feel like our country's going down the tube when we elected Joe Biden. And yep. I don't doubt that that's how they felt, but I try to...
Oh, that's the way it was. It's not just the way we felt. You can easily see from multiple policies and situations that happened during Biden's administration, it was a failure of an administration. However you want to look at it. The question is, were you paying attention? And how close, or were you paying attention to how close were you paying attention? And were you paying attention to whose responsibility it was and everything, who was making the decisions, who was making the calls and everything. So, yeah. But obviously Trump winning the popular vote, which is rare for the Republicans, that kind of tells you most of America felt that way. So it's not just that we feel that way, it's that everyone's looking at this. All of these policies and however they ran their administration is affecting everyone in the United States, and people feel it and they know it because it's real. Because you have inflation, you have the wars like the Ukraine, you have the Afghanistan withdrawal and all that stuff. All of those just horrible tragedies that happened under their watch, and because of them as well. So
I try to wrap my head around, what the hell? Why? Why did you feel that way? And I got no answers. I just got no answers.
See, And I just explained again why we felt that way is because we know it. Now, maybe your life wasn't affected like a lot of American citizens are, but people don't want to see eggs go up, 100+%, whatever. People don't want to see a lot of people are on a fixed income, especially, if people are struggling making ends meet, whatever, people with medical issues, whatever, are just riding on the razor's edge, if I'm saying this right, of financial ruin. And a lot of them do make bad decisions financially. They, purchase more vehicle than they can afford. They purchase more house than they can afford. And they can afford all this stuff because they have all this debt just weighing them down. And then when just a little bit kind of like tips over the scale, everything just kind of like floods whatever because they're not ready for it, because they don't expect it. Because people always want to live on the edge. They want to, how much can I afford? So a lot of that is kind of self-induced, but like I said, some people just don't make a lot of money. They don't have the intelligence. They don't have the schooling to actually get good careers that bring in good income. So they're on they're poor, lower income. And when all of these things happen under a certain administration, that is why they said, nope, I'm done with this. Enough is enough. These past couple of years were horrible. I'm done. Voting red for most of the ticket. A lot of people who generally vote left blue most of the ticket. They don't always have to obviously vote red straight down. They could say, hey, I like my state, leadership and all that stuff, but we're putting a Republican in the White House. Like, if that's all, we're done. And a lot of people do feel and know that the economy was better under Trump, despite he still has a spending issue with military and everything like that.
The man was especially this election cycle, he bowed out because he was also cognitively falling apart. But I don't think
he bowed out because he was forced to as well. He did not want to resign. So that's worth looking into if you haven't.
Joe Biden was a bad guy, whereas Trump is a bad man. Like, I don't know.
They are both bad men. I will say that. There's no one good, so they are both bad. Trump obviously has a questionable past that doesn't really align with, kind of a conservative Christian thing, which is why I say Trump's really he's really not that far on the right, I'll say that. But, so this instance, this is a 1 minute, 15-second clip. Joe Biden brags about getting Ukraine prosecutor fired. If you haven't heard of it, you will now.
Convincing that we should be.
There we go.
Yeah. I remember going over convincing our team or others to convincing that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I'm not going to, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was about 6 hours. I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired. And put in place someone who was solid.
Solid meaning someone that wasn't investigating him and Hunter Biden's corruption in Burisma and everything. So if you look into that, would recommend also as well. This is just one instance of Joe Biden being a bad man. He's corrupt. A lot of people see Ukraine as a cookie jar of corruption. I'm one of those guys. And so this is just one instance of Joe Biden stating that, hey, if you're not going to get the state prosecutor fired who's going after us, whether or not you want to say ill-intently or whatnot, but from multiple sources and witnesses and everything, it was legit why they were going after him for this corruption, whatever, and everything. And they wanted him fired. So they withheld money in order to get what they wanted. So that's corruption, political corruption right there as it is, and it's criminal as well. So Joe Biden is not a good man. Let's go back.
Where do we go from here? What do we tell the women and minorities and the LGBTQIA community? Like, what do we tell these people?
So the LGBT community and everything, they're fine. Obviously, I don't think they ever had an issue under Trump for the most part. Unless you're talking about trans ideology and everything. So yeah, we're going after them. I'm sorry. You can't trans the kids. You can't do this stuff. You can't push gender ideology and push kids to get, young girls to get breast removal surgery before they're, an adult. Kids to mutilate their genitalia before they're an adult. I mean, that's just all so sick and twisted and demented. It's demonic. And I will never apologize for saying that. But what do you mean apologize to minorities? Like, illegal, like aliens? Like, they can get out. They should have came in the legal way. That's what happens. You're a criminal if you enter the country illegally. So, I'm sorry, you get out, you go back in line, you come in the legal way. But because of the kind of no border, and all that stuff, whatever, they just let people in, whatever, and release in the U.S., whatever. They got rid of the release in Mexico policy and all that stuff, whatever. Now you have just people floating around in the United States, whatever. It could be criminals, terrorists, name it, rapists. So,
But what do we do other than try to defend them when we can? And what the do we do?
This is obviously going to be a much bigger topic than we can cover.
Yeah.
My feeling on this right now is I'm just massively depressed about it. I am fortunate that I don't typically suffer from depression, but I certainly feel depressed about this right now.
Yeah, likewise.
I woke up this morning and just couldn't do anything. And I still, I'm going to be like this for a while probably. Hard to focus on anything, hard to do anything. Certainly hard to be motivated to do anything, and hard to think about anything else. I think right now I'm in coping mode. This is this pretty bad thing that has happened.
to you,
and the reality is, whoever the president is affects different people in different ways in your day-to-day life. For most Americans, it won't affect you much at all. In everyday ways, it will probably affect you in kind of big picture, long-term ways, in lots of ways that are not good. And if you are one of these people who is only being affected in bigger picture, long-term ways, you are lucky and you are privileged. Because there are a lot of people who were affected in much more significant ways, right from the start. Right now, I don't want to even try to address that because there is just no way to give it justice. Right now, I'm in coping mode, and everyone copes differently. I would encourage you, as not a licensed psychotherapist, but instead as a person who talks about computers on the internet, so take this with a grain of salt, I would encourage you to let yourself feel your feelings. Don't try to hold it in, don't try to hide it, don't try to follow what other people are telling you to feel. Whatever you feel, let yourself feel it. I wouldn't at this point start pointing fingers and saying, this is where we went wrong, this is where the campaign or the candidate was too wrong or whatever. This is not a productive time to do that. Right now, just let yourself feel it. If you are mad, be mad. If you're sad, be sad. If you want to be furious, be furious. If you want to be despondent, be despondent. This is
if you want to be happy,
song.
Be happy.
Figure out, right now, this is, we were just hurt significantly. Deal with the pain. Deal with it. Don't just try to shove it down and process it later. No, process it now. This is what's going on right now for you. You got to figure out, what is helpful to your feelings and mood, and what is not. And have an open mind to that. So, one thing I have found so far, things that do not help me include reading the news. Because I know it's bad.
Yep.
I don't need to keep reading articles telling me how bad it is. I'm very aware of how bad it is. We went through this.
See, just real fast, that clip of him just saying, I don't need to read how bad it is, I know how bad it is. I wonder how much of, which side of news he's focusing on. Is he just reading, one side of the news, obviously, which most people generally tend to do. They read, the side that, is on their side, I guess, so either the New York Times, Washington Post, or, hold on, I forget, New York Post. I feel New York Post is kind of more, center right in a way. But there are some times in the middle, which, you know, yeah, it's fine, but I read them a lot. And then obviously you got more of the Fox News and stuff like that, whatever, which generally lean a little bit more right. So my advice would be to saturate yourself, if you are going to read the news, in more of a neutral news media kind of thing, you know, where you hear both sides. It kind of cancels one side or the other out. But you could also possibly feel your head being torn apart as well if they're pulling from both sides. So maybe not the best. Withdrawal from news is always good because one person is not meant to handle it all. And especially when it comes to anxiety and, you know, fear and everything, a lot of people can be severely overwhelmed and even traumatized with the amount of fear and, I guess, anxiety-driven news that they're forced to, what's the word, take in, I guess. And by forced, I mean, obviously, like, when you go to their site or something like that, when you pick up a newspaper and read it, it's right there in your face. It's like you're kind of forced to, because it's not like it's like a little link on the side. It's like, you know, I'm not going to read that. That might stress me out. But
already in 2016 through 2020, we went through this. We've seen
this part
roughly how this is going to go. Now, in some ways, it's less of a shock because this happened already.
Yep.
And
he was not a dictator.
Largely many of the
and he
same
was not
things
that bad either.
In the second term,
it's happened before.
Than what happened in the first term. It's probably going to be a lot of similarities.
But
if you are like me in the sense that reading the news does not help you feel better about anything or move on with your life in a significant, actionable way, what we saw the first time was basically a constant barrage of fire and motion in scandals. Every day there was a different scandal. It was overwhelming. It was basically a DDoS attack on everyone's attention.
So, like you stated, Marco, that DDoS attack, who did it come from? Was it from the right, or was it from your news media that you get all your news from and everything? Was it? So why were they doing that? Were they trying to subject you to fear, like, oh, the world's ending, oh my gosh, like, you know, panic and just fear and anxiety, like I said, just you were traumatized by the news that your media outlets were posting?
Because there was no like one scandal for anyone to focus on for more than a few days at a time, because after a few days there would just be another one. Can you believe what he did or said today? Like, and that kept happening like almost every day. So
a lot of people related is people call it like Trump derangement syndrome, where if you're constantly hearing a barrage of just how horrible and evil someone is, it can stick in your mind and kind of mess you up, whatever. And then any sort of mention of the word Trump, like, you know, oh, I'm a Trump supporter, whatever, it sends you like just wild, because from even just like a few months, whatever, a few weeks here and there, stuff like that, being barraged, whatever you want to say, berated, my bad, with just stories of like, oh, he's so bad, Hitler, he's evil, like, it really can mess with your mind. This is either side, obviously. You know, the right doing this about the left, like Joe Biden's evil, the world's going to end, whatever. People like Alex Jones, not a big fan of him. He's right about quite a bit here and there, but he's one who thrives off of fear and just paranoia and just like, you're making the problems gay, like, it's like thrive, like just like a some of the preachers do, whatever, the way they just like have that momentum. Like, it's not good. Like, I'm generally a more calm, collective guy. I do like to talk a lot. Sometimes I'll get like kind of wound up and stuff like that, and it's hard to kind of slow me down when I'm wound up. But other than that, I'm generally more calm, collective. Anything wild and spontaneous and, you know, just crazy loud and everything, it doesn't jive with me. So
gonna happen again. We're gonna have that just overwhelming barrage, that DDoS attack of just scandal after scandal, lie after lie, you know, awful, unethical, or illegal thing he does after awful, unethical, illegal thing. Like, it's just going to be a constant parade of those things.
And if you don't like that, what your media is serving you, like you said, just stop watching, just stop listening. Because if it's not serving you any good and it's not doing any good, what's the point?
That's how he operates, and that's going to nothing bad will happen to him as a result. Casey, you said, how are you going to explain to your kids that this person can, commit literal crimes and have no consequences? And the answer is
no consequences. I mean, you've seen everything that's happened over the past few years, right? You saw that they almost took his life. Now, I don't know, I'm not going to say those are consequences, but I would say those are consequences of what the media has pushed, more the left media, whatever, has pushed onto a lot of people, whatever their mindset about what Trump is. He's a threat to democracy. But he was already in office for 4 years and he wasn't a threat to democracy, so we already know that though.
rich and powerful people often don't pay they often don't pay consequences for their actions. That's just the reality of the world. And
yes,
that's what's happening here.
That's very true.
He's a very powerful
Same thing with Joe Biden.
person with a lot of very powerful friends.
Same thing with Joe Biden.
And an important lesson to
Barack
learn
Obama,
is that those
everyone.
people don't often pay consequences, especially Republican politicians. Their base does not hold them to those standards.
Oh,
so
really?
Republicans do not care what their candidates do as long as they win.
That's a lie. I know you probably meant as a whole, collectively, that most Republicans don't care what their candidate does. I would agree with that a little bit. I think people want this kind of Messiah-like figure, even the left does this, whatever. They want someone to take the flame and lead the way, right? So you want that, and there's only so much as the people you can do in a way. Obviously you can do grassroots organizing, all that stuff, and going to people's houses and door knocking and everything. There's a lot of stuff you can do on that level, but in terms of who gets to pick whatever, Trump had the momentum behind him, and he was pretty much already decided on rerunning again. So DeSantis tried to get in, but just didn't really have it. Trump just blew past him like a tanker, blown past a little paper sailboat or something. So
they don't care about any other factor. Priority number one above all else.
Oh, if Trump does something legal and criminal, not being the president, it depends on what he is as the president, because I think there's an exemption when you're president. If you accidentally kill an American citizen in another country, whatever, with a drone strike, whatever, Obama, then yeah, can you be guilty of murder as the president? The president seat position comes with a lot of choices and decisions you have to make that for this average citizen would be criminal in a way, but sometimes you have to make the hard choices in a way. So there's always that. But the same goes for both sides though. Left and the right, Democrat or Republican president or libertarian, if that ever happens.
Above morals, above religion, above legal, the laws, certainly above standards. Number one is winning. And they don't care what their candidates do, or what they're like.
Nope.
Now,
not true. Not true at all. I care what Trump is like. I care what he believes. I care what he does. I care how he talks, all of that stuff. But you guys previously stated, pretty much Casey was stating before, you felt like you had no choice in a way, oh, this is the side, I'm more aligned with Kamala. So you chose that, and same thing on the right side as well. As a conservative Christian, I'm always going to want to vote most conservative and honestly, generally pro-life first, whatever. So if a candidate wants to come in and say, hey, I'm all for a federal abortion ban, abortion is murder, so we're going to protect every American citizen's life, whether inside or outside the womb, 100% for it. That's my mindset, because I've stated before to you guys and everything, it's a biological fact. Life begins at conception. Just ask a biologist. So that's the truth of the matter. There's no dancing around it.
In terms of what people, trying to understand what people voted for here, they voted for a worldview.
We voted for change.
The people who vote for him are not looking at every single action and saying, well, I wonder if I can still vote for him, even though he lied 14 times in the appearance he made or whatever.
Trump lies, and so does Biden. They all lie. All politicians lie, no doubt in my mind. I almost want to say you have to lie, but I don't know. They all lie though, so yes, Trump has lied. Trump's not perfect. He's nowhere close to it. But in regards to certain, beliefs and kind of convictions I have, Trump was the most conservative of the two candidates. Kamala Harris even stating when the guy in the crowd said Jesus is Lord, she said, "Oh, I think you're at the wrong rally." She is anti-Christian. She's not a woman of faith at all, and she, like, obviously her mockery of the like the Catholic skits, whatever, like all that stuff. I'm not a Catholic, but she's anti-Christian and she's radical left in a way. Like, I don't agree with really anything what she has done over the past 4 years, because she's been in office over the past 4 years, and I don't like her as a person. So the lesser of two evils in this case, because we live in a two-party state, unfortunately, is Trump.
No one who is voting for him is thinking that way. It's tribal. It's almost a religious style thing. It's a worldview.
You're not wrong.
They are
in
voting
both
for
ways.
a worldview. Now, they have been convinced that their worldview is the correct one. And
you could state that about so many things. Your religion, all you guys have been convinced that your religion is right. You can state that about everything. It's just a matter of who's right?
everyone has different reasons why, and most of those reasons, honestly, are factually wrong,
Says you.
or at least massively distorted.
Says you.
But the reality is, they were sold a worldview successfully, and they voted for it.
Because we saw over the past 4 years what Biden-Harris had to promise, or had, what's the word? What they had to offer, I should say. They promised and what they offered, and we said, no, get out, time for a change.
And that's what we're going to have to contend with. That, if people knew exactly what they were getting here, they knew they were voting for a liar, a fraud, a criminal.
See, that's the way you look at him. You see him as a liar, as a fraud, as a criminal, because you read, you ingest, you consume from your left media outlets, and they barrage you with this, whatever. They just berate you like over and over again. That's all you saw. That's all you heard. Like I said, I have conservative and Democratic friends, left and right, whatever. Generally more to the right, but when you live in that bubble and stuff, when you don't converse with people who are actually on the other side and why they believe what they believe and everything, possibly from a religious conviction, the relationship with God and everything.
A rapist, somebody who's done many
Oh wait, let's go back.
successfully, and they voted for it. And that's what we're going to have to contend with. That, if people knew exactly what they were getting here, they knew they were voting for a liar, a fraud, a criminal, a rapist.
A rapist? That's... Trump was never convicted of rape. And you can state he was convicted of multiple felonies and he's a criminal. You can state that factually. But the question is, like I stated earlier, is that was the court or the judges biased? So calling him a rapist, Marco, I'm sorry, that's completely uncalled for. He's not a rapist. He's never raped any woman that we know of, actually. So same thing with Biden as well, sniffing all the, girls' hairs and everything.
Somebody who's done many worse things. They knew that, but they were voting for the worldview. And we're also, I think, going to have to cope with...
Oh, by the way, you guys should read Biden's daughter's diary. Yeah.
The fact that Democrats don't act as a bloc together. We never do.
Oh, yes, you guys do. Democrats always act as, they're always, in force and everything. With this last election, though, you guys were quite separated and broken up, mostly because I think of the Kamala endorsement by Joe Biden, which I think he kind of threw a rock in the, gears, and it happened.
And so a huge challenge Democrats always face is how do we get more people who are already Democrats to vote for our candidate? And that...
No, the question you should have is, hey, if our viewpoint is really right, if it's the righteous viewpoint and everything, if it's the morally right viewpoint, if it's the whatever, if it's the right viewpoint, how can we get people of all places, whatever, center left, center right, far right, how can we get them to kind of see our point of view and to maybe comprehend it and maybe even agree with us on a few viewpoints or a lot of our viewpoints, whatever. So you're trying to talk about how can we get more Democrats to vote, whatever. It's no, you should be, I'm trying to do, in a way sometimes. How can we have more discussions with people to actually share our viewpoint with them to where they can maybe meditate on it, comprehend it, let it sit with them for a little bit. Maybe they toss it out. Maybe it's in one ear, out the other, and they say, not for me, I don't agree with that. But maybe they actually hold on to a few things you actually stated. You're like, you're kind of right about that one thing. I kind of agree with you on that, but there's two other things, not really feeling that. So that's the way the world should work in a way. Open conversation, open dialogue with people of all beliefs, backgrounds, and everything. Obviously there's some I wouldn't care to, I wouldn't care to even listen to, I guess, in a way. Like, obviously, white supremacist, I wouldn't really care to hear their side or anything like that. And no, Trump is not a white supremacist, so just look, he won. He won so many of, Jewish votes. He won a lot of the black vote and everything. I don't like saying black a lot, but it is what it is.
It's a problem that the Republicans don't have. Their people will show up and vote for any criminal.
So Republicans, maybe as a group, but I mean, Christians in general, a lot of them do not vote. So,
as long as they bear that party name.
Nope. I do not actually consider myself a Republican. I may vote Republican a lot of the times, but I will always vote more conservative, whether left or right, however you want to say it, Democrat or Republican. If, parties flip ideologies and all that stuff, whatever, the Democrats become more conservative, I will vote Democrat. I do not align with the party as a whole. I would call myself more center-right, but I don't really like putting labels on anything really, so for the most part. So I would just say I'm more of an independent who leans Republican, generally votes Republican because they are the most conservative.
Because it's all about winning first, and anything else is secondary. But
well, of course, my beliefs and convictions, and obviously like I said, I'm anti-abortion in a way. I'm always pro-life, and I don't like kids being killed. I want that to rule supreme, whatever. I want that to be the law of the land and everything. So of course I'm going to vote that way, as you would vote the other way.
Again, that's not how Democrats work. So Democrats need a different strategy. I'm not a smart enough person in politics to be able to say what they should do next, but we've seen over and over again, how we lose, and maybe we can figure out, new things from there. But, the reality is half the country is not, stupid or nuts. Like they were sold a bill of goods, and we have to figure out, if we're on the other side of that, we have to figure out how we can reach them.
See right there, half the country is not super nuts. Applaud that. They were sold a bill of goods. Not just a bill of goods, Marco. Trump was in office for 4 years previously. So they have his experience as a politician, whatever, in the political field, in the White House. He was a businessman, came into politics last minute, and ruled for 4 years and reigned over the United States for 4 years, and obviously was out of office for 4 years. And then they chose to bring him back in because the main question Trump was asking on his latest rallies was, he's like, I want to ask you guys a question. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? And they say no. And that is the truth. That is the state of the world as it is. Sorry, the state of America as it is right now. Most people, the majority, the popular vote, they do not feel they are better off now than they were 4 years ago. And Trump was in office before then. So, like I said, they don't just have his promise. They have his record. And I think that's what you're forgetting too, is that Trump has a record.
Or how we can reach our own people in enough numbers to overcome them. And that's something to do over the next 4 years. But in the meantime, you got to find out what helps you. How do you get through this? I mentioned earlier, for me, reading the news does not help me. There's a reason why I did not read much news between 2016 and 2020, because it was just destroying my mental state. It was making me just angry and stressed and afraid all the time. By the way, you asked earlier, Casey, why somebody could possibly feel very strongly about Joe Biden. I agree. I don't know why people could possibly hate him so much. He seems like a really kind of neutral person to me, but the reality is that's what they have. People on that political side of the aisle, they have been fed a constant worldview stream of anger and fear and claims that make them hate this very neutral.
That's actually true for both sides. Both sides, left and right, were like, they were portrayed that, this guy is completely evil. Like, even to the point, I will agree that people I know were not radicalized, but they were like, the world is ending with Joe Biden being in office. It's like, it's 4 years. Like, I understand a lot can happen in 4 years, and the president does have a lot of power that can affect a lot of people, and a lot of jobs and everything. Obviously, the Afghanistan withdrawal and everything, 13 U.S. service members killed. You have the, where's I going with that? Oh, you have, the border policy and everything. And that obviously affects U.S. citizens as well, so.
Very milquetoast kind of candidate that makes them hate him. They can't stomach him because
we know who Joe Biden was before that. He was a pledge riser, all this stuff. So a lot of people knew who Joe Biden was, and that's why they dislike him severely. Because not the way he governed per se over the past 4 years. And this is true. Like, he had transgender people like in his administration, whatever. So it's like, what are you doing? Like, you have a man wearing a dress? Like, what? Like, this is a mental illness that is still status as a mental illness, gender dysphoria, whatever, where you don't know what gender you are, whatever, where your mind's so confused, whatever, what actually is real and what's not real. So it's just like playing make-believe, and those are the people that he had in office. So it wasn't just his past record, Joe Biden's, with Obama and everything, when he was in his administration. It was his current record that obviously people came to dislike him severely. Especially the Afghanistan thing, that was a horrible event.
They've been sold this incredibly severe worldview. I mean, Trump's entire campaign was basically anger and hate and xenophobia. Just that was everything he ever said.
So was the left.
He was constantly talking about how much America.
Oh, come on, Trump's Hitler, all this stuff, whatever. His white supremacist, democracy's, ending, whatever. Trump's a threat to democracy. Like, it's both sides.
That was his entire campaign. Is everything sucks and is awful, and it'll get worse if you don't elect me. That's
in a way, but also this election run, his campaign ran on more so hope. Let's make America great. Let's make it what it was. Obviously, he'll talk about, it sucks, whatever, in the past 4 years and all that stuff, like how Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, whatever, ran things, whatever, like, look at the border, look at, Afghanistan, look at Ukraine war, all this stuff, whatever, look at everything, whatever. So yes, he will state that, he will state what's obvious, and some things may be exaggerated a little bit here and there, but for the most part, he's running on hope, whatever, which is what he originally ran on, make America great again, and now it's pretty much, I was making it great, they destroyed it, let's make it great again. So it's pretty much hope. Let's make America strong again. All this stuff, whatever. Let's make America healthy again. I can't wait for JFK to get all this. I'm so excited about that.
That was his entire campaign, but that reached enough people to matter. So again, these people, it's hard to understand them when we're on the other side of the aisle, but they got there for a reason, and so anyway. All this is to say,
that reason was
find
the past 4
ways.
Years.
Right now, it's a fresh wound. Right now, stop bleeding. Find ways to cope. Experience your feelings. If you want to feel a certain way, let yourself feel that way. If you want to be mad for a while, be mad for a while.
Just don't take it out on people unnecessarily. Don't react in violent ways, obviously. So I wish he would state this.
If you want to go into mourning for a while, go into mourning for a while. Figure out what helps and what doesn't. So for me, reading all the news does not help. Reading social networks does not help. You'll probably be seeing even less of me on the social networks as you were already seeing, which already was not a lot recently. One thing that does help me a lot is I'm a very social person. Being around people helps me a lot. Exercise and especially spending a lot of time outside.
Yep.
Today I took a big walk. It was a nice weather day, and I just took a huge walk, even though I picked the wrong shoes and they were a little bit too tight, and it was a little uncomfortable. My feet were a little bit hot too, but it didn't matter. I was outside. It was that helped a lot, spending a lot of time. And then finally, I have found that when I withdraw from the news cycle and put my time and attention into making things or doing work, like being productive or being creative or producing output, that also helps me a lot. Find whatever that is that helps you. It's not going to necessarily always be obvious, especially if you don't frequently need to deal with this kind of feeling. But what will probably help, honestly, I think what helps me, I think will have a lot of overlap. What helps a lot of people. Not everyone is social like me, but certainly I think most people tend to feel better with exercise, outside time, and productive time. And most people tend to feel worse doom scrolling social networks and reading terrible news.
Yep.
So
Always.
maybe if you don't know what to do, maybe take that as a starting point. But otherwise,
I think it's the way most people should live. I think no matter who's in office, who's out of office, I think, like I said before, both sides play into your fear, into your anxiety, into your just overall just your wiring, and they get under your skin, and they make you feel certain ways that you don't want to feel. And I would highly advise most of the time just plug out of politics, randomly plug in maybe. It's good, in my opinion, as men and everything, to be involved and to see what's going on in the world. Do we need to prepare a little bit? Do I need to change my investments and everything like that? So it's good to be aware of stuff. But for the most part, who's in office, we as just average normal American citizens cannot affect really anything like that in that side of power or whatever, nor do I want to. I don't want to be involved in politics like that. Like, it's horrible, it's toxic, it's cancerous in a way to me. So I would not want to be involved in that for the most part. So yeah, just unplug. That's what I did after the 2020 debacle, and I never felt better. So would highly recommend, just in general, because like Marco was stating that he knows that they're going to barrage him with, like, he's going to be berated with, stories of how bad Trump is, what he's doing wrong and everything. And maybe it's true, maybe it's not true. Maybe they just want to make you feel a certain way about someone, someone who they don't want in office, someone who they don't agree with, and they want you to be on their side. That's the same way for both sides, actually.
Look, we'll get through this. We got through it the first time. It was not a cakewalk. There were a lot of problems that resulted.
Same thing with Biden, but there were not as many problems as you're stating. This next administration, only in 4 years. Like, he's only going to be out for 4 more years. That's one of the reasons why I didn't want him to run, is because usually the incumbent always wins, and there was a good chance Biden might have won. But yeah, just real fast. We're gonna look at this chart real fast. Let me see if I can. Oh, you can't turn it around when it's. Oh wait, you can pause it. Yeah, so we're gonna open up this picture real fast. Oh, did I mess it up? I did. So right here you have 2012. This is kind of backwards, I know, my bad. 2012, 2016, 2020, and then 2024. Look at the Republicans. So you have 2012, 2016, 2020, 2024. So a lot of people voted extra in 2020, but look how many. So the Democrats generally just hovered around just over 65 million for mostly up until 2020. And so the Republicans spiked in 2020, but then they gradually went down to just over 70 million, I believe. So what happened here with the Democrats it's kind of interesting. Just over 65, over 80, and down again to just over 65. Something happened here in 2020. Who knows? I do. And then you also mentioned about like strategy and whatnot, like Democrats need to change their strategy. I mean, you have like Zuckerberg admits Facebook wrong to suppress Hunter Biden laptop story before the election, scolds White House for COVID censorship. So, I mean, the Democrats are already utilizing media outlets like Twitter and everything. And that's why Elon bought Twitter and changed it to X, because of this government overreach and censorship to save their party. Or, from bad press, I should say. Save their party from bad press.
A lot of damage that was done the first time that will not be undone for a long time.
What damage was done the first time? 2016. It'd be nice to know if you state damage was done or something like that, like be a little clarifying, like give one example at least. Unless he's talking about the pro-life U.S. Supreme Court justices. Yeah, that's not damage.
That's going to happen again. And we just have to be prepared for it.
The overturning of Roe. That's back to the states. And Ohio apparently is super pro-abortion. So,
I rode the ferry today. And
we'll stop there. So that's just a response reaction video to ATP's post-election feelings. They have a large platform. So many people have podcasts, whatever, they get to express their views. Their viewers kind of, either marinate in what they believe. You have people on the left kind of believing the same things. You have people on the right, obviously opposing what they are stating a lot of the times. But I don't think there's a lot of people who actually, especially in the audience, who actually take time to just kind of respond to some of their statements, all that stuff, because it's a podcast. You're like, they're not going to have callers call in and be like, hey, have a conversation with us about, the political administrations, Biden and Harris, like all this stuff, and Trump, like, they're not a political podcast. So, for anyone who wants to just, scroll through this, watch or whatever, appreciate it. But like I said, this is pretty much mainly for them. Casey, who stated that, he didn't really get much of a response answer from some people about, why they voted a certain way. But like I said, the past 4 years, people didn't want any more of it. They had enough, and so have I. So other than that, like I said, as a conservative Christian, I respect everyone's views and mindsets and everything, unless it involves harm to children, abortion, mainly, and transgender ideology being pushed on kids, and the indoctrination in schools and all that stuff. Not for it. So I'm a conservative Christian, loud and proud. So thanks.